Well, we called it a get-right game for the Mountaineers, and they did just that in the 70-38 win over Mercyhurst. We're going to have you covered here on this episode of Mountaineer Moment, breaking down the action in the Mountaineer victory. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, welcome back to another episode of Mountaineer Moment. Episode 104, and this is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. Mountaineers coming off of a win just about 7 seconds ago against Mercyhurst, 70-38, back in the win column at the Hope Coliseum. Extremely important to get this win, and I'll say it was extremely important to win this game in the manner with which they did. More on that through this episode, but I want to tell you that we would love for you to subscribe to Mountaineer Moment in this growing community, this growing channel. Again, episode 104. Hit that subscribe button for us, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're watching or listening. Join this community. And again, we are your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And we would love to have you join what we got going on here. We preview action, we recap game action, and that's what this episode's doing. Feels good, certainly after that West Virginia football performance on Saturday. Sunday afternoon, West Virginia, they didn't win by as much as the football team lost by on Saturday, but they gave a really, really good effort in the 70-38 win. Obviously, a 32-point difference in the win. So in this episode, breaking down the action, we're going to talk about Jackson Fields making his Mountaineer debut, what we saw, and just what that means for Ross Hodge, who I believe has his hands full dealing with this Mountaineer rotation. Moving forward, we'll look at the box score, tell you who did what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like from the team's performance today. Again, just kind of an immediate reaction to this game, and then, again, just we'll start with this point. Feels really good to get back in the win column. You start 5-0, all 5 games at the Hope Coliseum. Then you hit the road for Charleston, 2 games there in a 4-team bracket. One team had to go home 0-2, and it happened to be the Mountaineers. A gut-wrenching, just upsetting loss against Clemson in the opening round on that Friday night. You felt like you had it because you kind of did, and then you lose that game. And then you play against Xavier, who's a team that struggled, this season in a lot of ways. And they played Georgia real close, almost beat them in that opening round, but they fell. You match up with them on Sunday afternoon a week ago, and you end up losing that one by 10 against a really hot shooting Xavier team, 16 threes. And we talked about, sometimes, it is a red-hot shooting team that you come up against, but the West Virginia defense needs to take ownership of that too, and you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, well, it don't matter how good the team is or how hot shooting they are, you got to play better defense. You can't give up 16 of 25 from three-point land. And you get a week off, sour taste in your mouth. We talked about that in our Mercyhurst preview. Like, you want to see this team bounce back in a big way. It's a bit of a get-right game. That's what we called it, and the Mountaineers did just that. So you got to give them credit, give Coach Hodge and his staff credit too. Mercyhurst, you hold them to 38 points. Previously, you had held 2 teams to under 50, Lehigh and Pitt in the backyard brawl. You held them to 49, and it just felt good after giving up games in the 70s to Clemson and Xavier. Well, against Mercyhurst, you hold them to 38. And as good as that first half was defensively, giving up 22, the second half was even better, giving up 16. Mercyhurst's 30th point, I made sure to take a note of it so I wouldn't forget. Their 30th point came with 7 minutes left in the game. We'll take that every single game, every single day of the week. Obviously, Mountaineers have some tougher competition coming. You got Wake Forest and Ohio State, and then it's Big 12 play. But these games, you need to take advantage of these opportunities to figure things out for yourself, because we don't want to be in figure-it-out mode or get-right mode in Big 12 play. We want to feel ready, prepared, and confident for challenging games night in and night out in the Big 12. Just to kind of summarize this game here against Mercyhurst, Mountaineers' offense got off to a great start, started the game 8-0, but they were still giving up open looks to Mercyhurst's best two players, best two scorers in that first half. It was Bernie Blunt who started with 12 on 5 of 7 shooting through the first 13 minutes of this game. So it was like, oh my goodness, here we go. This kid's going to go for 30. Again, started 5 of 7, first 13 minutes of the game, and then he cooled off a bit, and West Virginia did some things defensively, obviously, to limit the looks that he was getting, because he finished with just 14 points in 28 minutes, and he went 6 of 12 from the field. As a team, obviously, it was a number that we were curious about heading into this game against the Mercyhurst Lakers was, all right, that 3-point line. Is there going to be another team? You know, you come in, when someone makes 16 threes on you a week ago, you come into that next game not expecting that to happen, but like it's, you know, you just don't want to see that happen again to you. And Mercyhurst went 5 of 13 from downtown, and, you know, they made, I don't know, 2 or 3 of those pretty early. You know, Bernie Blunt went 2 of 4. Jake Lemmelman, who we talked about in the preview episode, he went 2 of 4 from downtown as well. But then they just didn't really shoot a whole lot of them, and obviously didn't make a whole lot aside from those guys, just one guy making a 3 off the bench. Bernie Blunt was the only guy in double figures with 14 for Mercyhurst. But again, just feels good to get a win, to win a game by 32 points, to get to 6-2, to end that losing streak at 2. And, you know, as you continue to inch closer, right? It's December already. We're here. As you continue to inch closer to conference play, you need to figure things out. You just need to figure things out. A little bit of the Mountaineer box score before we get to some other things and we close out this brief episode. But Mountaineers had a well-balanced attack. No starter was in double figures for the Mountaineers. But several of them had, you know, some good buckets, some good moments in this game. Trayson Eaglestaff had 9. Brendan Laurent Belo had 9 points, 5 boards, 2 assists. Eaglestaff also had 8 rebounds. We're going to talk about him in another episode coming up because, again, it was just a 9-point performance today, and he had 20 against Xavier that was kind of lost in the fact that they lost that game. But he's looking a little different, and there's a reason to be encouraged by what he's done on the floor recently, not just in the box score, but just the way that he looks. So if you're interested in continuing that conversation more on Trayson Eaglestaff, there'll be an episode coming in a day or two talking about him. And then talking about another guy off the bench for the Mountaineers, Amir Jenkins, who had 10 points, 3 boards, 3 assists. To me, he just continues to make improvements game after game. He's a bulldog, man, offensively and defensively, getting involved and making things happen on both ends of the floor. You love to see that. Harlan Obioha missed a couple bunnies, but he ended up with 4 points, 5 rebounds in 21 minutes. Jasper Floyd, again, not a high-level offensive performance from him, but 5 points, 1 of 5 from the field, 3 of 3 from the line, 4 assists, just 1 turnover, which you like, and 3 steals for him, continuing to lead this team defensively at the point guard position. We'll round it out with Honor Huff in the starting lineup. 6 points, 2 of 5 from three-point land, 2 assists, and 3 steals for Honor Huff. So again, no Mountaineers in double figures in the starting lineup in the 70-point performance. Mentioned already, Amir Jenkins, 10 points. Chance Moore, 11 points, had a pretty awesome dunk too, and 9 rebounds. We mentioned what Chance Moore brings to this team, through his 5 games where he was sitting out. It's like, I'm telling you, he's gonna do some great things for this team. One of those things is rebounding. He can really, really rebound the ball. Great athlete, 11 points and 9 boards for Chance Moore in 16 minutes. So that's pretty remarkable stuff. Jackson Fields making his debut coming off of, his injury on his non-shooting hand, and he had a 9-point, 3-board, 2-assist performance in 12 minutes. Liked what you saw from him, and he's just going to continue to add things to this Mountaineer team. DJ Thomas, 4 points in 13 minutes to go along with 3 rebounds. All right, so again, it feels good to get a win. You beat Mercyhurst 70-38, as you should. You hold a team to under 40. That's the lowest scoring output from a opposing offense all season long. As a team, West Virginia only made 5 threes, only shot the ball 47%. I guess, or else that lead could have been even bigger to end this game. 5 of 18 from downtown. Honor Huff being the guy to knock down 2 out of 5 from deep. You just manhandled Mercyhurst down low on the glass, 44 rebounds to 27, and forced turnovers, 15 turnovers for Mercyhurst compared to 10 for the Mountaineers, and you like to see that, especially in the early going. West Virginia was really, really good at capitalizing on turnovers and converting it into easy buckets on the other end. Now, I mentioned already, Jackson Fields is here. He suited up for the Mountaineers. He played. He had 9 points and was active on both ends of the floor. This is Chance Moore's third game with the Mountaineers after his first 5 games being, sitting out. And I think the appropriate thing to discuss, right now in this episode, relating to this situation that the Mountaineers find themselves in, relating to what Ross Hodge is going to be dealing with and actively dealing with right now, is where do all the minutes come from for these guys? The starting lineup through all 8 games for the Mountaineers so far has looked the same, right? It's been Jasper at the 1, Honor Huff, Eaglestaff, and Belo on the wings, and then Harlan Obioha, the big man, at the 5 down low. Off the bench, we've seen DJ Thomas, the freshman. We've seen Amir Jenkins. We've seen Morris Ugasuk. Prior to these 2 guys now joining the fold in Jackson Fields and Chance Moore. So is it just as simple as that? It's going to be a 10-man rotation now. Obviously, that's kind of what it was in this game against Mercyhurst. Jordan Forsyth ended up getting 6 minutes and knocked down a 3 in his time, in garbage time, at the end of that game with it being out of hand. But, how's it going to work, Because not all these guys can play 30 minutes. Not all of these guys can play 25 minutes. If you look at just, for example, because this is the first game Mountaineers had, at full strength, but you got to take it with a grain of salt, of course, because, it was a 32-point victory. But no one on this team played more than Eaglestaff. He played 27 minutes, Huff 26 minutes, Floyd 24 minutes, Amir Jenkins 23 minutes off the bench, and then, those guys we've just talked about a lot, Jackson Fields 12 minutes and Chance Moore 16 minutes. So where is it going to come from? In a lot of ways you can characterize that as a good problem to have because you think you have 10 playable players on this Mountaineer basketball team. And if we're going to assume, which might not be correct, if we're going to assume that the starting lineup is going to stay intact, well, then you gotta find minutes for Jackson Fields and Chance Moore and Amir Jenkins, who keeps coming on and coming on and coming on, and DJ Thomas and Morris Ugasuk. You got to get these guys minutes. And it's not my job. It's not your job either. This is Ross Hodge and his staff trying to figure out who's going to play, and is it going to be situational, and is it going to be the hot hand? Is it going to be matchups? What's it going to be that's going to, end up leading to one guy getting 27 minutes on a Tuesday night, and then that very same guy getting 6 minutes on Saturday afternoon, right? Because there might be situations like that, and we don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but that is something to really, really keep an eye on now that this Mountaineer team, and I say finally, right? We're still, it's the last day of November, but finally, feels like it, at full strength. You've got your full complement of players. You got everybody that you brought in to fill out this roster. And, the other thing about, we came off 2 losses to Clemson and Xavier where, you didn't like your defense late in the Clemson game. You didn't like your defense at all against Xavier. Well, now with Jackson Fields here and Chance Moore here, who, of course, played in that tournament too, those are 2 guys that you brought in for what they can do on both sides of the ball, but they're certainly above average defenders, Jackson Fields and Moore, and rebounders. And so you like what they can bring into what you're working with. And, it's been a topic of conversation in previous episodes too. DJ Thomas has impressed immensely this season. So, are you going to cut his minutes? And, one of the thoughts too earlier was, well, Eaglestaff is struggling so much, obviously his minutes are going to shrink. Well, now Eaglestaff is starting to turn some heads a little bit, right? 9 points, 8 rebounds in 27 minutes. He had 20 points against Xavier. My best guess, because again, I don't think it's as simple as, one night Eaglestaff's going to play 35 minutes, and that same night Chance Moore's going to play 5 minutes. Right? I don't think it's that. I do think it's situational and matchups and things, but I think more so than like one extreme and the other, as far as like minutes for this guy and lack of minutes for this guy, we may very well see Ross Hodge decide to just continue to give all of these guys, not 30 plus minutes, but 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and figure it out, right? That's what he did. And the first time we're seeing it tonight, again, off the bench, Thomas, 13 minutes, Jackson Fields, 12 minutes, Amir Jenkins, 23 minutes, Ugasuk, 13 minutes, Chance Moore, 16 minutes. Like, that's where it came from tonight. And the only starter for West Virginia that didn't hit the 20-minute mark, which is kind of interesting because he was the hot start for the Mountaineers, is Belo. He got in foul trouble, and that's, part of the, factor that into the equation too. But it's still a good problem to have. Like, I'm encouraged the fact that there really are 10 guys that we figured to see on a given night. And what that's going to look like isn't my job. It's Ross Hodge's job. And let's just hope that, when guys are on the floor, it's their time to be on the floor and they're going to shine and give it all they got. And, there's been complaints about Hodge and like subbing so frequently. But maybe that's just what we're going to continue to see, right? Guys are going to play 3-4 minutes, give it all they got, burn themselves out, and then they're getting subbed out, knowing that they're going to come out of the game, and then they're going to go right back in the game in a few minutes. I don't personally have a problem with that. If you got 10 playable guys and you want to keep fresh legs in there often, then maybe that's what Ross Hodge is going to continue to do. But certainly something to keep an eye on as, the Mountaineers move forward and progress in their season. Obviously, Coppin State coming to Morgantown on Wednesday, another opportunity to just keep stacking wins before you see Wake Forest on Saturday night, the 6-2 Demon Deacons on Saturday at the Charleston Coliseum in West Virginia. So hopefully it could be a really, really good turnout for Mountaineer fans. ESPN2 will have that game. And, of course, before we get to that, we'll talk about Coppin State. We'll give you a preview for that game. We're going to talk about Wake Forest. We're going to send another episode out talking about Trace and Eaglestaff, and just maybe he's turned a corner a little bit, and you're encouraged by that. Amir Jenkins is going to get a shout-out in that episode too, so be on the lookout for that. But for episode 104, this one's in the books, and we will see you next time on Mountaineer Moment.